You don't expect your world to fall apart because of an envelope. But there I was standing in my kitchen, holding an invitation that threatened to destroy everything I'd built. I still remember the way the morning light fell across my kitchen floor, warm and golden, like nothing in the world could go wrong. I was holding a cup of coffee in one hand and flipping through the mail with the other, sorting bills from flyers and tossing most of it straight into the recycling. And then I saw it. A cream-colored envelope with elegant gold script and a wax seal. My name, Claire Dawson, written across the front like it was any other day. But it wasn't. I opened it slowly, and the words hit me like a slap in the face. Olivia Dawson and Andrew Callahan invite you to celebrate their wedding. My throat went dry. I read it again. Then again. The words didn't change. Olivia, my sister. Andrew, my husband. I sat down right there at the kitchen table, heart pounding, trying to make sense of it. Maybe there was another Olivia Dawson. Another Andrew Callahan. It was a big country. Weird things happen. But no. Deep down I knew. It was them. Her. And him. 10 years ago, Olivia and Andrew were a thing. Everyone thought they'd end up married. I was in college back then and they were already rocky. Always fighting, barely talking, breaking up and getting back together every other month. Then she moved to Boston for work, and Andrew stayed behind. He started showing up at the coffee shop where I worked during grad school. At first it was innocent. Friendly. Then something shifted. When he kissed me, I pulled away and whispered, "You dated my sister." He said, "I'm not dating her now." And just like that, the line blurred. 6 months later, we were together. A year after that, married. Olivia found out. She didn't yell or cry, she just disappeared. Walked out of our parents' house and never came back. I hadn't seen her, spoken to her, nothing. Not for a decade. I thought she moved on. I thought she hated us. Apparently I was wrong. I stared at the invitation again, heart racing. Why now? And more importantly, why me? I picked up my phone with shaking hands and texted Andrew. "Me, got something in the mail. Need to talk." He replied in less than a minute. "Andrew, everything okay?" "Me, just come home when you can." He came home an hour later, smelling like sawdust and mint gum. He always chewed that stuff when he was stressed. I handed him the invitation without saying a word. He looked at it, his face unreadable. He didn't flinch. He didn't act surprised. That was the worst part. "Claire, I was going to tell you," he said quietly. I crossed my arms, not out of anger, but because I didn't know what else to do with them. "She reached out a few months ago," he continued. "Said she wanted to talk." I didn't think anything of it at first. Then it turned into more. My stomach turned. "So you've been talking to her? Behind my back?" He looked down. "It wasn't like that." "Really?" I laughed short, bitter. "She's marrying you, Andrew. How else should I take it?" He didn't answer right away. Instead, he sat at the edge of the kitchen stool like the weight of his words might break him. "We've been off, Claire. You know that. For a while now." I hated that he was right. We hadn't really seen each other in months. Just passing each other in the hallways, polite conversations over dinner, distant touches that meant nothing. But that didn't make this okay. "So you're leaving me," I whispered. "For her." He didn't say yes. He didn't say no either. He just looked at me with those same eyes I once fell in love with and now couldn't stand to see. That night, I sat out on the back porch, watching the azaleas sway in the breeze. Savannah evenings were always my favorite, soft, still, almost magical. But that night, everything felt different. He was packing upstairs and I was trying to keep my hands from shaking. Emma's laughter floated down from her room, light and innocent, unaware of how her world was about to change. I pressed my fingers against my lips to keep from crying. How was I going to tell her? How do you explain that Daddy left because he fell in love with your aunt? And why did it still hurt so much when I knew the cracks had been there for months? The next morning I dropped Emma off at school and headed straight to my flower shop. Petals and pine had always been my safe place. The scent of fresh roses, eucalyptus, the hum of soft jazz, it usually calmed me. But that day, I knocked over 2 vases, miscounted an order, and nearly burst into tears when Miguel asked if I was okay. I locked myself in the office and called the one person I hadn't yet. "Mom," I said, voice cracking. "Did you know Olivia is marrying Andrew?" There was a pause. Then she sighed. "I was hoping you wouldn't find out like that." So she knew. "She sent me an invitation too," Mom admitted. "Said she wanted to fix things. That maybe this was how it was meant to be." "Meant to be?" I snapped. "She's marrying my husband." She said it happened naturally, that they reconnected. Claire, I'm not saying it's right, but what, Mom? That I should be okay with it? Smile through the betrayal. She's your sister. She was my sister. Andrew left that night. No scene. No begging or apologies. Just a quiet, I'll call Emma tomorrow. I didn't cry. Not until after he was gone. And then I sobbed so hard I thought I'd never stop. A week passed. I kept my head down, focused on work, and tried not to think about the wedding. Then one afternoon, a small white box showed up at the shop. No return address. Inside was a bundle of dried lavender tied with ribbon and a handwritten note. Claire, I know this hurts, but sometimes things have to break before they make sense again. Please come to the wedding. I want to talk. Olivia. My hands shook as I read it. Was this her way of saying sorry? Or rubbing it in? A part of me wanted to throw the box into the trash. But another part, one I hadn't listened to in years, whispered, go. Because maybe, just maybe, this wasn't the end of the story. Maybe it was just the beginning. Sometimes walking into a room full of strangers is easier than facing the one person who knows how to hurt you without ever raising her voice. I should have thrown the invitation away, burned it, buried it under old receipts and the fragments of what used to be my life. But instead, I packed a bag, booked a last-minute ticket, and found myself in the passenger seat of a rental car, driving down a long dirt road toward a vineyard in Northern California. I had no idea what I was doing. I told everyone I was going for closure. What I didn't say was that I needed to see her face. I needed to look Olivia in the eye and ask her why. Not in a letter, not in a phone call, not through some sugar-coated apology. I needed the truth, raw, unfiltered, and face-to-face. The vineyard looked like something out of a magazine. Rolling hills, white chairs arranged in neat rows, lanterns strung between trees. Perfect. Elegant. Like nothing ever went wrong here. I pulled up to the guest house at the edge of the property, heart thudding, palms sweating. Every part of me screamed to turn around and drive away. But I didn't. Instead, I got out of the car, smoothed my dress, and walked inside. She was there, sitting on the back porch with a glass of white wine, wearing one of those effortless silk robes she always loved. Her hair was longer now, darker, but her posture hadn't changed, straight-backed, composed, untouchable. When she saw me, her lips parted just slightly. No smile. No apology. Just recognition. Claire, she said softly, standing. You came. I shouldn't have. I know. A silence settled between us, long, heavy, full of memories that hadn't been touched in years. Then I asked, why did you invite me? She looked down at her wine glass. Because I didn't want to start this new chapter without finishing the last one. I laughed, dry and bitter. Finishing it? You ended it when you decided to marry my husband. Olivia didn't flinch. He was never yours, Claire. Not really. Excuse me. She turned to face me fully, setting the glass down. You knew how broken we were. You saw the cracks between Andrew and me before anyone else did. And then you stepped in. My breath caught. You're blaming me? I'm saying, she said carefully, that none of us were innocent. Not then. And not now. I wanted to scream, to throw something. But all I said was, he was my husband for 8 years, Olivia. 8 years. And now you're marrying him like none of it mattered. She nodded slowly. I know what it looks like. I do. But Andrew and I, we reconnected. He wasn't happy, Claire. You weren't either. And that makes this okay? I snapped. That makes betrayal some kind of redemption story? Her eyes softened, and for the first time I saw a flicker of real pain there. No, she said. It doesn't. That's why I needed to see you. Because there's something you don't know. I folded my arms across my chest, not trusting a word. Try me. She took a breath, like she was preparing to dive underwater. Andrew and I reconnected a year ago. At Mom's birthday party. I wasn't invited, I said coldly. I know. She didn't want drama. Of course not. Heaven forbid anyone be uncomfortable. I was still angry at you, Olivia continued. Still bitter. But when I saw Andrew again, we talked. About the past. About how we ended. About you. I clenched my jaw. He told me things, Claire. Things that... She hesitated. Things you deserve to know. I narrowed my eyes. What things? She looked away, biting her lip. Do you remember when you were in the hospital? After your surgery? Of course. You were out for almost 2 days. Andrew told me. That's when it started. The emotional distance. The pulling away. He said he felt helpless, and instead of talking to you, he shut down. I didn't respond. I remembered that time vividly. I remembered feeling like he was already halfway gone when I came home. And when he started coming to me, I should have said no, Olivia said. But I didn't. Because part of me was still angry. Part of me wanted to hurt you the way I thought you hurt me. There it was. The truth. Or at least a version of it. I was the last person you should have turned to, she whispered. But I also know I'm not the only one who crossed lines. My heart pounded. What does that mean? She looked me dead in the eyes. I know about Daniel. I froze. Everything around me went silent. Daniel. The name hit me like a punch to the ribs. How? I started, but my voice cracked. Andrew told me. About the texts. The coffee meetings. The hotel room you booked and never used. I felt the blood drain from my face. It wasn't what he thinks. Maybe not. But it meant something, didn't it? I turned away, tears stinging my eyes. I was lonely. I felt invisible. And Daniel, he noticed. You never told me, she said softly. I didn't want to be like you, I whispered. And there it was. The real fracture. The one that started long before Andrew. Long before Daniel. Back when we were just two sisters trying to live in the same shadow. Later that night, I stood alone in the guest room, staring out at the vineyard lights twinkling in the distance. I should have left hours ago. Should have walked out after that conversation. Slammed the door and never looked back. But something kept me there. Not closure. Not forgiveness. Clarity. I finally saw the truth for what it was. None of us were blameless. We were all carrying wounds we refused to show. Olivia with her pride. Me with my silence. Andrew with his cowardice. There was no neat ending. No perfect explanation. Just a tangled mess of choices, regrets, and broken hearts. And maybe, just maybe, somewhere in that wreckage I could finally let go. You think you've buried something deep enough, far enough, until it shows up in front of you with a smile and says, "Miss me?" The morning after my confrontation with Olivia felt surreal. The vineyard was already buzzing with wedding prep. Staff setting up tables, florists unrolling cascading bouquets of white roses. It all looked beautiful, polished, fake. I sat alone on the stone patio of the guest house, nursing a lukewarm coffee I'd barely sipped. My emotions were brittle, my thoughts scrambled like the eggs I didn't eat. That's when I heard his voice. "Still like your coffee black?" I turned and there he was. Daniel Reed. The man I had almost ruined my life over and the man I hadn't seen in 3 years. I stared speechless as he casually approached, hands in the pockets of a navy blazer, sunglasses tucked into the front of his shirt. What are you doing here?" I finally managed. He smirked. "I was about to ask you the same thing." I stood up, instinctively crossing my arms. "You were invited?" "I'm friends with Andrew. College fraternity days. We've stayed in touch." He gave me a knowing look. "Didn't realize you two were on speaking terms again." My heart skipped. "We're not." He raised an eyebrow. "Then what are you doing at his wedding?" I didn't answer. Because I didn't know. Daniel had always been dangerous in the way charming men are. He listened too well, complimented too precisely, and looked at you like you were the only one in the room, even if you weren't. Back then, when Andrew grew colder and the silence between us stretched longer, Daniel had stepped into that void with warmth I hadn't felt in years. Nothing physical ever happened. But emotionally, it was everything. We had met for coffee twice. Once after a corporate conference, once after he found out I liked a certain bookstore downtown. He'd walked me to my car both times. Told me things about his failing marriage. Asked about mine. We were playing with fire, and we both knew it. Then came the night I booked the hotel room, and didn't go. I'd gone home instead, sat on the kitchen floor and cried until sunrise. The next morning I deleted his number. Until now. "Want to take a walk?" Daniel asked, tilting his head toward the vineyard. I should have said no. Instead I nodded. We strolled between the rows of grapes, the morning air still cool though the sun was rising fast. His presence was disarming, familiar, and terrifying. "So," he said, after a few minutes of silence, "how have you really been?" I laughed hollow. "Oh, you know. Betrayed by my sister. Humiliated. Rebuilding my career from scratch. Pretty average Thursday stuff. He smiled gently. I deserved that. You didn't betray me, Daniel. He looked at me. Didn't I? I stopped walking. You were the only one who saw me when I felt invisible. And that scared the hell out of me. He stepped closer. Claire. I never stopped thinking about you. My heart slammed against my ribs. You were the one line I didn't cross, he said. And I regret it every day. I looked away. You think that makes you noble? No, he whispered. I think it makes me honest. I didn't know what to say. Everything felt too raw. Too soon. And yet, I didn't move when he reached out and brushed a strand of hair from my face. Later that evening, the rehearsal dinner was held under a canopy of twinkle lights and laughter I couldn't stomach. I sat at the edge of the garden, sipping wine I didn't like, watching Olivia and Andrew make their rounds. He kissed her on the cheek. She leaned into him like a scene from a romantic movie. And I felt nothing. Not jealousy. Not anger. Just emptiness. Daniel sat down beside me without asking. You're not clapping. I looked at him. I forgot how to pretend. He nodded. Then don't. Come with me. To where? There's a small bar in town. No flowers. No fairy lights. Just people who aren't lying to themselves. The last thing I needed was another escape. But I went anyway. The bar was quiet, dimly lit, with old music playing through dusty speakers. Daniel ordered whiskey. I stuck to club soda. We didn't talk about the wedding. We didn't talk about Olivia. We talked about books. About regrets. About how his divorce had finalized 2 months ago. I lost custody, he said quietly. Partially because of what happened between us. Or what almost happened. I looked down. I'm sorry. Don't be. It's not on you. But I knew better. You know, he said after a beat, we could have been something. Could have, I echoed. But we weren't. He leaned closer. Maybe we still can be. I didn't kiss him. But I wanted to. And I hated that I wanted to. That night, back in the guest house, I stared at the mirror, searching my face for signs of the woman I used to be. The one who once knew right from wrong. The one who believed love had lines you didn't cross. But those lines were blurry now. Olivia. Andrew. Daniel. Me. We were all tangled in the same web, trying to find our way out without pulling everything down. And as I lay in bed, the silence thick around me, I asked myself a question I wasn't ready to answer. Was I here for revenge, or for redemption? I didn't come here for revenge. I came to set myself free. The morning of the wedding felt unreal. The vineyard was quiet, with that kind of stillness you only get before something big happens, like the pause before a storm, or the breath before confession. I got dressed in a simple navy blue dress. Not out of sadness, but because it felt like me. No pretending. No trying to be someone's perfect daughter, or wife, or sister. Just me. The ceremony was set up like a dream. Flower petals down the aisle, strings playing softly, guests dressed in pastels, laughing and taking pictures. If you didn't know any better, you'd think it was a perfect day. But I knew better. And yet, I wasn't angry anymore. I stood off to the side unnoticed, watching Olivia glow in her wedding dress as she walked toward Andrew. He looked proud. She looked radiant. It was like watching strangers. Daniel, standing with the groomsmen, caught my eye. He gave me a small nod. I didn't smile back, but I appreciated it. As the officiant started speaking, I felt something settle in my chest. A decision. He asked if anyone has any reason why these two should not be wed, speak now. And in the silence that followed, I could feel the whole world waiting. But I said nothing. Not because they deserved silence, but because I deserved peace. I turned quietly and walked away, leaving the ceremony behind. No one noticed. And even if they did, I didn't care anymore. That was the moment I let go. Daniel found me later, sitting near the small pond behind the vineyard. He didn't say anything at first. Just sat beside me. I thought you might say something, he said after a while. I looked at him. I thought about it. But I realized. I don't need to prove anything anymore. He nodded slowly. You're braver than me. Not brave, I said. Just done. Daniel hesitated. I know you probably won't believe me, but I never meant to hurt you. I didn't know what Olivia was doing. And after I found out, it was already too late. I let that sit for a moment. I believe you, I said quietly. But that doesn't change what happened. He looked at me with something close to regret. What are you going to do now? I smiled. Go home. Start over. The next day, I flew back to Seattle. I moved into a small apartment near the water. Nothing fancy. but every inch of it was mine. I started working again, not at some soul-sucking corporate job, but consulting for nonprofits, helping women going through divorce and betrayal. Women like me. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was building something for myself. I didn't keep in touch with Olivia or Andrew. I didn't block them either. I just let them drift into the past where they belonged. As for Daniel, he reached out a few weeks later, asked if we could talk. I thought about it. Then I replied, maybe one day. But right now I'm focusing on me. Looking back now, I don't regret anything. Not the heartbreak. Not the silence. Not even the wedding I walked away from. Because sometimes the real power isn't in what you say. It's in knowing when to walk away and choosing yourself instead.